What's going on, guys? You're chilling with Trainer Zabuza, and today I have got a Pokenalysis for you on Greninja in the OU tier. Now, looking at Greninja's stats, holy crap is it fast! Its attack and special attack are pretty good, not fantastic, but pretty damn good, with its attack stat being 95 and its special attack stat being 103. And kinda mediocre defenses, and it's not very bulky at all. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's glass, but it is kind of frail. But it makes up for it, and let me show you why. The weaknesses and resistances, they're all pseudo. The weaknesses are Fairy, Fighting, Bug, Electric, and Grass, all pseudo. Resistances are Ghost, Fire, Dark, Water, Ice, and Steel, again, all pseudo, and a pseudo immunity to Psychic. And you must be wondering, Zabuza, what the fuck are you going on about? There's no way that this Pokemon has all pseudo weaknesses, resistances, and immunities. Guess what? It does. Because its first ability, Torrent, all these pseudo abilities would be the same. They'd be actual like weaknesses and resistances and immunities. They'd all be the same, but just not pseudo. However, its ability Protean changes it to the type of move it's about to use, which means all these weaknesses are just for its base form. As soon as it uses its move, it gets a whole new array of weaknesses, resistances, and possibly immunities. And that's what makes Protean such a good ability. So, that being that no matter what attack it goes for, it's going to automatically get Stab. Any coverage move it gets, Stab. And that's what sets it apart from a lot of different Pokemon, in the fact that it gets Stab with every single move it can learn. Not only that, but it also changes its type based on support moves, such as Spikes, Protect, which would change it into a normal type, its signature move Mat Block, which would change it into a fighting type. Any kind of move it uses, it will change to that type. Now let's move on to the common set to show you guys how Greninja takes advantage of this. With its massive speed, it's most likely going to be a Life Orb set, considering you don't want to choice this thing, because one of Greninja's tool usefulness is in the fact that it can change its type. So that means you don't want it to lock into a single move. Either that, or you can have Expert Belt in case you don't like the recoil, ability of course Protean, and a Timid Nature with an EV spread of 4 HP, 252 special attack, and 252 speed. With a moveset of Ice Beam to hit those pesky dragons and well, not a lot of grass types, but like dragons, ground types, so on and so forth. Hydro Pump or Surf, you can go with Hydro Pump or you can go with Surf if you want more accuracy. I would recommend Hydro Pump just because it needs as much power as it can get with a base 103 special attack stat and not being modest. Dark Pulse, again just for coverage, and Extrasensory for coverage. And the way Greninja uses its moveset is that if it's in against a fighting type, it will use Extrasensory, which will immediately get Stab, and it will no longer be weak to fighting. Instead, it'll be weak to Bug, Dark, Ghost, etc. And even if it was a Psychic type, it could just easily change into a Dark type if it was threatened by a Ghost type. Meaning Greninja takes advantage of its moves to cover its weaknesses to then resist them. And this is the first time a Pokemon's ever done something like that. And building on this, I made a custom set that is very, very offensive. If you look at it, it's Life Orb or Expert Belt, again like the previous one. Protean ability, Naive or Hasty Nature. If you want, you can go with I would recommend a Naive Nature because it has more special defense, and that's just usually what you would do. You take away from the higher stat. Or you can go with a Hasty Nature, which will reduce defense to increase speed if you don't care about its actual physical defense, with an EV spread of 4 attack, 252 special attack, and 252 speed. With the moveset of Hydro Pump, you need Hydro Pump because of this offensive set. You need to do damage. Ice Beam for coverage, again, pesky dragon and ground types. U-turn so you can switch out in case you don't find the matchup favorable. And finally, the third move, which is Dark Pulse, Extrasensory, Grass Knot, or Hidden Power Fire. Now, there's a variety of moves you can go with here, because these are pretty much the best coverage move Greninja can get. You can go with Dark Pulse in case you wanted that Dark typing coverage. Extrasensory in case you want to resist fighting types for some reason. I mean, you just changed into a water type afterwards, so I don't see why. And if you used U-turn, you turn into a bug type, but then again, you'd leave the field, so it doesn't really matter there. Grass Knot is to hit other bulky water types, such as Milotic, or maybe a Gastrodon, although I don't think Gastrodon is more commonly used nowadays, but you can still hit Quagsire and Swampert. And finally, Hidden Power Fire is a possible option for those pesky Steel types in Scizor and possibly Ferrothorn. And the whole point of this set is deal massive damage. If you can get a super effective hit off, or a hit that you know will knock it out, do it. If not, you turn out. That's what this set is. It comes in, beats on something, and if it can't beat it down, it beats on it and switches out. Kind of like Genesect, except Genesect was way overpowered in the fact that it got not only Stab U-turn, but it also got download so it could increase its attack and special attack, which is kind of how Protean works, but Greninja doesn't have as high offensive stats as Genesect does, or have the move pool to accommodate such a drastic change. Next, we're going to move on to the offensive support Greninja. Now, you're going to wonder, what the hell am I talking about? Let's just look at it, okay? With the item Leftovers or Expert Belt, again, this set is more that it's speedy and you don't want to lose a whole lot of HP. With the ability Protean, a timid nature, 4 attack, 252 special attack, and 252 speed. With a moveset of Hydro Pump or Surf, you can actually go with either one. I just put Hydro Pump on there because it's the more powerful option. However, if you wanted to go with Surf for more accuracy, that's fine too. Ice Beam, Spikes, so that way you can set up some hazards, and electric types that would try and hit you with a super effective move. You then become immune to electricity. And Toxic Spikes for more hazards. However, if you feel that you don't need any more hazards, you can go with U-Turn. If you choose Toxic Spikes, you can put the last 4 EVs instead of attack in HP, but if you feel that you want U-Turn, I would recommend putting the last 4 EVs into attack. You can still put it into HP if you want, but that's just my recommendation. I would also like to point out that Greninja does not have the defenses to provide any kind of defensive support, such as physically or especially defensive, or even maybe a bulky set. The only reason you can get away with the support set that I previously mentioned is because Greninja is continuously changing its types to resist the hits. So that way you're never taking the full brunt of a hit, you're always taking resisted damage. It can also run a physical set, however, it's pretty situational, and at this point, I think that it can really only be considered a gimmick set to try and run a physical Greninja, especially since it doesn't get any huge hitter moves in a physical move pool. Sure, it'll get Waterfall, Power Up Punch, U-Turn, but it doesn't really have anything that seriously stands out that would make you say, I'm definitely going to run physical. Even its signature move, Water Shuriken, only has a base power of 15. If it had a base power of 25, it'd probably be more worth using. But with just base 15, it's not really that good, even if it does have priority. But moving on to checks and counters. Checks and counters include pretty much most special bulky Pokemon such as Chansey, Blissey, will wall this thing, and it doesn't even stop there. There's Snorlax, there's Clefable, there's a whole bunch of other just especially bulky Pokemon that can actually check Greninja really well. Sure, Greninja can U-turn out on them, but if you're running the standard set, it's pretty much walled. And mentioning fairy types, Sylveon, along with a couple more evolutions, wall this thing pretty well because they are very bulky, they can resist a couple of Greninja's hits, and they can just wish off the damage or get a significant hit off with a Hyper Voice, a Foul Play, or maybe just give it some residual with Toxic or a Scald Burn. Other Pokemon that check it are fighting types with priority. This would include Pokemon such as Breloom, or maybe even Conkeldurr, you know, the Pokemon that will have Mach Punch and that aren't afraid to use it, because they'll be able to hit on Greninja's weak side with a super effective move before Greninja has a chance to change its typing. And finally, Talonflame. Now you may be wondering, Zabza, what are you talking about? One Hydro Pump or Surf will just knock out Talonflame. And normally you'd be right. However, Life Orb, Adamant Talonflame one-shots Greninja 93% of the time. And that's only if you have that 4 HP investment. If you don't have that last 4 HP investment, then you're screwed. It's a 100% chance to knock it out with just the Life Orb. If it's Choice Band, no matter what kind of investment you've got, be it 4 or 8, or obviously for some reason if you put 252, you're going to survive it, but if you just put in a minimal amount of HP investment, you're not living a banded Brave Bird. And sure, Talonflame can't switch in on it. However, on a one-on-one matchup, Talonflame will almost always come on top over Greninja. I mentioned a lot of checks and counters, but let's list some teammates. Some teammates can include other bulky fighting types such as Conkeldurr. I know I mentioned it as a possible check, however Conkeldurr also works really well as a teammate because it can hit those normal bulky, especially defensive Pokemon really weak. You know, Chansey and Blissey, it can hit them for super effective damage on their weak side and it can knock them out. But of course this won't work for bulky fairy types such as Clefable or possibly someone using a Florges in the tier, or maybe the Sylveon. That is where Amoonguss comes in. A specially defensive Amoonguss can hit them for super effective damage with Sludge Bomb, can put them to sleep rendering clerics useless, or if you're running one of the stats that I like to run with Amoonguss, can just sub up on the switch. Another Pokemon that works specifically well with Greninja is Heatran, and that is because it can check Talonflame really well. It can come in on a Brave Bird and take minimal damage, it'll get a Flash Fire boost with Flare Blitz, and it can retaliate with a possible Ancient Power. Another possible teammate is Excadrill, and that is because Excadrill is immune to electric type attacks. But that's it I've got for this Pokenalysis. I hope you guys all enjoyed it and found it informative. There's a lot of stuff to cover with these OU Pokemon because there are a lot of different things which make them good that need explanation on. So I hope you guys all found it informative. and I will see you next time. Bye!